Today's speaker possesses the very impressive skill of understanding the intricacy of the human body and how you can heal yourself just by listening to it fully. She's even written a book about it. And in her talk today, she will explore how symptoms aren't random or something to fight against, but instead messages from the body that can help us restore balance, resilience, and energy. Very helpful for busy business owners. So for you, that might mean that you will learn how to catch the early signs of stress before you get burnout, understanding the link between well-being and clarity when you make important decisions, and just creating a healthier relationship with yourself so you can lead your business with confidence and calm. And on that note, let's welcome Robyn Harris to the stage.
Thank you so much, Sindra. I now have to follow that. So today I'm going to be looking at the fact that the body doesn't make mistakes, as Sindra said. It's not going wrong, it's not making mistakes, it's not doing things randomly. And also, just to say before I start, I'm very happy to share these slides. The links are clickable, so if you'd like to have that, just let me know where I can send it, maybe to Rich, who could maybe forward it on, or to Sindra. Just let me know. So this is me and my business, Wild Wellbeing, and I'm passionate about this subject because basically it's my story. I ended up in burnout not just once but twice, and that was due to me being stressed and not listening to the niggles from my body. And our body starts off whispering, trying to catch our attention so that we then make the changes and bring it back into well-being and balance and flow. But if we don't listen, it ramps up that dial and it starts to shout. And that was where I ended up. Not just once, as I say, but twice. And the symptoms that I was actually experiencing were fatigue, to the point where I actually ended up in a wheelchair and then confined to bed. I had IBS, digestive upsets, food intolerances, aches and pains in my muscles and joints, headaches, weekly migraines, brain fog, and also eczema, which appeared on my hands, my feet, and my eyelids, which was the one that was most irritating and annoying for me. And I thought that my body was just letting me down. And so I had a really poor relationship with it, and that was just deteriorating as the symptoms increased and continued, and I couldn't seem to get rid of them no matter what I did. I thought I was doing my best. I was trying really hard, trying to do all the right things, all the things that you think you should do, but I was just sick and getting sicker. And then I learned that the process of dis-ease actually looks something like this. It is an actual process, it can be mapped out, and basically it's following 5 biological laws of nature. One of those laws is that it has 2 phases, and you can see there on the left-hand side there's a mobilization phase, and then on the right-hand side it's a regeneration or restoration phase. And each dis-ease that we experience goes through this process, so we can actually map it out, no matter which part of your body it is, and we understand what different parts of the body, how they respond. Sometimes they develop extra cells, sometimes less cells, sometimes it's increased function, sometimes it's decreased function, but we can pull that apart when we look at what some symptoms somebody is experiencing and then understand why the body's doing what it's doing. And all of the time, it's just doing what it's designed to do. It's not going wrong, it's not making mistakes, it's not attacking itself. Every single cell in our body has a blueprint for its optimum function and all the processes that it needs in order to get back to that blueprint. And every step along that way, no matter where we are on this diagram, even if we're in the mobilization phase or we're in the restoration or the healing peak or anything there, it has a function and a purpose. But sometimes our thoughts and our beliefs hold us stuck at one point in the diagram or keep us looping round and round and round, so we never get to the point of 8 and coming out into 9 and health and well-being again. And I help people to understand why that's happening for them as an individual. And so what's really going on is that we're in fight or flight. You've probably heard about fight or flight. And the purpose of this is to mobilize us so that we take action. It gives us energy and pushes us to do things, whether we're going to fight for our life or flee. So the body is engaging in processes that support our survival. And part of this is also to numb us out so we don't feel pain, because if we felt pain and we got injured, we wouldn't continue to fight or to flee. And so stress has a purpose, but it was designed originally, and still is, to be short-lived. We're only meant to be in fight or flight actually for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. But in our Western society, we're often going into a chronic state of fight or flight. And even though we don't generally encounter dragons, even here in Wales, we can end up just being in that state of fight or flight, and it causes changes in our body, sends us into inflammation, which, as they now know, is behind most forms of dis-ease. But as I say, we don't encounter dragons. What we do encounter is things like this: tech challenges, or standing up and giving a speech, which is known to be one of the top stressors, or things like moving house, or divorce, or potential redundancy. All of these things are very, very stressful. And we're responding to them in the same way that we used to respond to that saber-toothed tiger, whether that was a true saber-toothed tiger or, whatever the predator was at the time. And the fight or flight response was to take action to fight or to run away. But that's not appropriate when what you're actually dealing with is a work crisis or a tech crisis, or you have to stand up and give a speech, because then you don't want to be in fight mode and you don't want to be wanting to run away, because those things aren't going to support you. They also, when we're in fight or flight, we're literally in blind panic. So we just are seeing straight ahead of us to find the way out. We're not able to be creative and to see the wider picture. Our executive functioning goes offline. We don't have that clarity of thought. We're not able to make good decisions. But those are the things that we actually need in most of today's stresses. And I kind of think of where we are now. It's like when we have a flat tire, the spare wheel in the car is designed as a short-term gap filler to get us from where the puncture happened to the nearest garage. We are not changing out that spare tire, that fight or flight. We're driving around on it continuously. If we did the car would be out of balance and we'd start to hear knocks and have little problems developing in the vehicle. And that's what's happening in our body. And it's kind of like we've put on a suit of armor that we put on there in order to survive and to feel safe. But if you're carrying that suit of armor around over a long period of time, it just starts to feel really heavy and really clunky and really uncomfortable, and it doesn't allow you to grow. It doesn't allow for that space, that flexibility and that movement that we need. But I was saying earlier that everything your body does, it does for a purpose. There's a reason behind what we're experiencing. Generally speaking, because of that numbing out thing, we don't have what we think of as symptoms of dis-ease during that mobilization, that stress phase. What we might feel is cold hands and feet, clammy hands and feet, feeling restless, not being able to sleep very well, and potentially reaching for those sugary snacks and caffeinated drinks. But each one of those has a reason or a purpose. The cold, clammy sensations are because our blood, our circulation is being taken away from the hands and feet, the extremities, away from our digestion as well. So you might get that sense of butterflies in the stomach or a nervous stomach. And instead it's being sent to the muscles and the heart and the lungs. Again, fueling that fight or flight. And the restlessness is so that we have energy to take action. The insomnia is to keep us awake, and we might be video looping or audio looping in our heads. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that. What was going on at that point in time? And just repeating it over and over in our heads in order to find a solution. And the sugar and caffeine cravings are, again, that quick fuel. We might not be hungry for healthy food, but we do often look for those quick energy boosting snacks. And then we get that sugar spike and the slump, and then we just want more of those sugar fueled snacks. And we keep going round and round in that cycle until we're able to shift. And you might have seen where the diagram started to go down and it went into restoration. Often that happens when we can relax. We maybe take the weekend to do the stuff that we enjoy. We're not working over the weekend, so we relax. Or we go on holiday, or we have a massage or some other form of self-care. Or we leave a stressful situation. We leave the job that we hated. We leave the relationship that wasn't working. Or we resolve a stressful situation. Maybe we've had an argument with somebody and we're able to make up again. So any one of those examples allows us to come out of that stress phase, out of that mobilization. And the other side of that is restoration, or rest and repair, or rest and digest. Because that's where the body starts to come back into balance, starts to go back into homeostasis and harmony, and to heal. And that's where we tend to experience what we think of as symptoms, because the body needs to undo what it did in the stress phase. It kind of goes into a detox. And that can look like fatigue, irritation, inflammation, aches and pains, fevers, digestive upsets, which you might recognize some of those as the symptoms that I was explaining I had earlier on. And we think at this point in time that we're ill. But actually, it's the body just seeking to come back to balance. It's undoing the changes it did to help us survive in the mobilization phase. And here, it's coming back into homeostasis and balance. So often, if the symptoms aren't severe, the best thing we can do is rest. And then after the healing peak that you saw in the diagram, we often get our appetite back, and that's when we want the healthy foods. So, the old thing of chicken soup. Or you might, if you're into your veggies like me, then you might want those lovely casseroles. I love this time of the year because we can have all those root veg casseroles and soups and stews that just feel so healthy and nourishing. And when we eat the rainbow, they say that for a reason, because every color has a different nutrient. So although they say eat your greens, don't just eat your greens. Eat your reds, oranges, yellows, blues, greens, and purples. Because every single one of them offers us different nutrients. And that's the things, those are the building blocks that our body needs in order to heal. This is just a great quote from A.H. Almaas. Again, if you get the slides, you can read that for yourself. But it's basically saying that the purpose of our pain, because each of us experience our own unique pain. My pain won't be experienced by anybody else. Your pain won't be experienced by anybody else. But it's unique because it's sent, as A.H. Almaas says here, by the part of you that loves you the most. It's the only way it has to communicate with you. Our body can't speak words. It speaks to us in feelings and sensations, whether those are emotional or physical or cognitive. And it just wants to give us that little nudge to prompt us to look at where are things not serving you right now, and how can we change those so that they are in alignment with who we really are. So when they say follow your heart, follow your soul, listen to your body, listen to your gut. This is why. And the vagus nerve, which a lot of people talk about nowadays, it's vagus because it's vagrant and it travels, not literally moves, but it branches throughout pretty much the whole of your body. And supporting the vagus nerve supports us in our health and our well-being. So whatever we can do to help ourselves relax, that's when we heal, which is why things like hypnosis and yoga and those things work so well. It's all about just building that deeper understanding of our body so that we can work with it rather than, as we so often do, we work against it because we're told push, keep on going, push on through, when that doesn't actually serve us. So this is just a recap of the different symptoms that you experience depending on which phase you're in. And how I use this in my work is to look at what is somebody experiencing, what's going on for them right now, what has led up to that point. Where it says timeline there, you might realize that's a clickable link. It takes you to a video that explains what a timeline is and how you create yours. It's a great thing to do, even if you're not doing it for somebody else, but just do it for yourself, because it helps you to see the resources that you've developed and how many things you've actually been through, survived, learnt from, grown from. And I then take that information from people, look at the symptoms they're experiencing and which organ and tissue is affected, and that allows me to tell them what's going on. When I first had this done for myself, the report I got back, it just blew my mind, because the doctor, well, it wasn't a doctor, but the therapist that I was working with told me stuff I hadn't even admitted to myself. I couldn't understand how he knew that, how he could work that out. But it literally was just from reading my timeline and understanding all the things that I have since learned. And basically, this process is called meta-consciousness. It has grown out of German New Medicine, which you might have heard of. And the latest branch and development is meta-consciousness, which brings in a lot more of that vagus nerve and that idea of safety, physical, emotional, and psychological safety. And this is the workshop that I've talked about before here, the 3-day workshop, which I also offer as an online self-study course where you can learn the introduction to meta-consciousness. And if you'd like to know more, I also talk about why our current view of dis-ease might actually be holding us in that sick situation, so that, like I was saying earlier, in that diagram, we don't then get to point 8 to 9 and on into health. And this webinar is to help us understand more about that. And the next one of those is on the 31st of October at 2 o'clock. And it's free to attend. And that's the workshop, the 3-day workshop that I was talking about. And then that was the end, and any questions. And then I have some other slides at the end, which I won't share for now because they're just my standard ones of this is my book and these are my links, but they're there if you are interested.